moving on to video games. Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra. We finally
Ooh.
get a look at the Captain America and Black Panther game that was teased a long time ago. Um,
Ooh.
Written and produced by Amy Hennig, creative director of my favorite game of all time, Uncharted 2.
Mm.
Um, Inspired by the 2010 comic book. Um, what is it called? I'm sorry, let me reread that. Inspired by the 2010 comic book limited series, Captain America slash Black Panther, Flags of Our Fathers, the story is set in occupied Paris during World War II and involves
Mm.
American super soldiers, Steve Rogers, forming an uneasy alliance with Azuri, the King of Wakanda, the grandfather of T'Challa, who
Mhm.
operates as the Black Panther, as they attempt to prevent the rise of the organization Hydra. It is coming
Mm.
out next year in 2025. Um, Kari Payton is voicing and doing a mocap of Black Panther, most famously known for Cyborg in the 2003 uh, Teen Titans cartoon.
Mhm.
And I saw his face immediately, and I was like, "That's Kari Payton." and then I heard his. I think I heard the voice, and I was like, "That sounds like Kari Payton," but it's not Kari Payton, is it? And then I saw his face. I was like, "Nope, that's him." And so this was done at like an Unreal Engine event, so it was there mostly to show off the graphical capabilities of the engine. So there wasn't like any gameplay, but the
Mm.
game comes out next year, so hopefully we're probably going to get that in the summer with all the different game showcases.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's being done by Amy Hennig, who works on Uncharted. And it's being done by a new studio she's hitting. I think it's a Skydance studio, Skydance Games. So, or it might not be new. It might have just been like revamped. I'm pretty sure at some point it had a different name, the studio, but maybe
Mhm.
it was like folded into Skybound Games because I'm pretty sure not Skybound. Skybound is the company owned by Robert Kirkman, the creator of Invincible and The Walking Dead, and is the
Ah,
company that produces the Walking Dead games by Telltale. That is a
right.
completely different company. But Skydance is what I meant to say.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm excited. I hope it's good. I was trying to say before I distracted my mind that I hope it's a very story focused, like kind of I'm thinking the combat will probably be something like an Arkham game if I'm being honest. There was a Captain America game
Yeah.
a long time ago that was like that was actually kind of cool. And if the combat's anything like that, it would be fun. And honestly, kind of weirdly enough, the way the scenes are shot, the way they look so grounded in like it's an actual film, it reminds me of The Order 1987 or was it 86? I can't remember. Have you
Mm.
heard of that game? It
I
was
have.
it was like a one of the it went I don't know if it was a launch game, but it was like one of the first games released on PS4, and it
Right.
is such an underrated masterpiece. People didn't like it because of how short it was, in combination with some of the mechanics being a little bare bones, but like it was such a good, short, sweet experience, and it felt like a tech demo basically because it is to this day one of the prettiest games to release on PS4, despite the fact that it was one of the first games to release on PS4.
Wow.
It looks incredible, and I so wish that we got a sequel because the world of that game is so cool. It takes place in like what late 1800s Europe with this secret organization that are like have like members that are named after Knights of the Round. The main character named is
Ooh,
Galahad, and they like fight literally like vampires and werewolves.
that is neat.
But the vampires and werewolves in this universe are very cool. Where I think werewolves are a regular thing, but
Mhm.
vampires are kind of like they're just discovering that they exist in
Oh,
this
wow.
story, and they like go to this place where it turns out like there has been like a handful of them in the world. I think at the time of the game, but there are like hundreds of them that are in caskets in like this factory that they're planning on waking back up, and it's so cool.
Mm.
And the yeah, it was so fun, and I could and then there were a lot of really cool weapons in it, and I just it deserves a sequel. If it was up to me, we'd be getting like a new one of those. But yeah, this the way the just the way they film, I guess, which is a weird word to say when it comes to a video game. But they're
Yeah.
trying to mimic filmmaking in the way that they do cutscenes and stuff. The way
Right.
the
Makes
way that they do that reminds me of that game. So in my
sense.
mind, when I'm imagining the gameplay, I kind of imagine the gameplay from that game, which was a mix of like third person shooting and a little bit of like melee. And I'm
Hmm.
imagining the way the melee works in that. There was another game similar to it that came out on Xbox called Rise Son of Rome that it also reminds me of, which I don't know why both Xbox and PlayStation during that generation released these games that were kind of bare bones and shorter experiences. Like I said, they were basically tech demos. They released these games that were made to essentially show off the power of their consoles and not necessarily be like these super fleshed out games. And instead, they were kind of just story more like cinematic story driven games. Like you could still control it and there was still action, but it was very cinematic. But they were fun, and I would like more games like that.
Yeah.
Xbox does have Hellblade. That does
Hmm.
something very similar to Rise of the Rome, but PlayStation doesn't have that. They need to bring that back.
They do. They do.